We chilling, man. Dave Blunt's in here. Jesse got the cups on deck.
Yeah.
This is his first official interview, too.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Never done an interview before.
We're breaking the walls down.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Just like Abigail. Yes, sir.
Definitely.
Just like Abigail. That's hard.
Let's start from the beginning. So tell us a little bit about where you're from and what being a kid Dave Blunt's was like.
Well, I had a pretty hectic and treacherous upbringing. I'm from a town called Davenport. It's a town in Iowa, and I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, but I moved to Iowa when I was like 3, and I've been there ever since.
You ever heard of Standard Bikes?
No.
They're from Davenport, Iowa, I do believe.
Oh, shit.
Or at least
Okay.
somewhere in Iowa. I'm not going to fact check myself right now. If I'm wrong, it, huh?
You ever been to Iowa?
No, I was here that Iowa, I don't want to go there. There was some joke about how the not going there is contained within the name.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
Yeah,
you don't
probably
want to. There ain't shit out there.
But yeah, I've always heard that's like one of the most depressing states in America. So you're going to agree with that?
There. Yeah, man, ain't shit out there. But fentanyl, I can cuss.
Of course.
Bitches, selling, all that shit, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
So what were your younger days like your childhood?
My childhood was pretty crazy. Like when I was younger, I grew up going to the shelter. I lived in the shelter like plenty of times.
Really?
Living in hotel rooms and shit. And then, my mom was finally able to, afford to get us a place to live. But yeah, it was pretty crazy for a minute there.
So dad wasn't around?
No, my dad passed when I was 8, and that shit was crazy because he passed while I was living in the shelter, and then like after he passed, just a bunch of crazy shit started happening. Like I remember like it was yesterday, man. So I lived in a domestic violence shelter, so I couldn't get dropped. The school bus couldn't drop me off directly there because some nigga came there and he would like, somebody got dropped off there and he was like, oh shit, that's where my girlfriend stays because I beat her ass and I can't find her, but now I know where she's at and now I'm gonna go and beat her ass even more.
Whoa.
So yeah, there was like nobody can get dropped off in front. Like this is like a secret entrance. They got like retina scans and codes and shit. You got to get in that mother for real.
But your mom was staying there just because it's like a women's shelter, like any woman could kind of stay there? She was in
like a domestic violence situation. Okay. So that's why she was staying there.
Okay.
Was that with your dad?
No, my dad. No, my dad. Okay. With my, I don't know who it was, but it wasn't my dad. But yeah, so I used to get dropped off in the parking lot of a Chuck E. Cheese, and every day, I'm like 8 years old. I'm like, Mom, can we go to Chuck E. Cheese? And she had to like break it down to me, like, no, we don't got enough money to go to Chuck E. Cheese and shit. And so that was already sad every day, but I had a good ass day at school, and I was like still hyped getting off the bus, and we're walking there, and my mom was just like, she told me that my dad passed away, and just like my smile slowly started to go down and shit, and I didn't really understand what that shit meant until I go to the funeral, and they can tell you, Remo can tell you, black funerals, man, they're hysterical. They're screaming, oh, get up, you can do it, to the mother in the casket and shit. Yep. And so me as a kid, I'm thinking like, can he really get up? Shit like that. So that shit that stemmed from that was just like anxiety, like that, all that shit going on, everybody crying and shit. I'm realizing what the death is at that moment. Like it was crazy as and
but was your relationship with your dad decent before that?
Yeah, it was. We had spent time together, but I didn't really know him all too much. Like as I got older, I grew to like resent him and like not really with him as much because I learned about shit he did while he was alive that I didn't really with.
That's
like
kind
as
of
a man, I can't with.
Well, it's kind of a shame too because, I don't know what depths you're talking about with that. Some stuff is definitely unforgivable, but it's like him losing his life younger like that means that you're not going to ever be able to like reconcile or be able to understand necessarily like what he was going through or what his life was like.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a situation that I didn't remember until I overheard my mom talking about it on the phone, and I did remember it once she was talking about it. It was me and my mom were walking downtown, and we seen my dad, and I was like, yo, it's my dad, and mom was like, no, it's not your dad. And I go up to him, I'm like, yes, that's my dad. She's like, all right, well, let's go up to him. And he was with his girlfriend, and he was just like, I don't know that nigga. I don't know this little nigga. Like, I'm his son. And so you know, I remember that he did that, and I'm just like, what the you know? Like, that's some bullshit.
You think, was he just up on drugs or something? Or?
No, he wasn't on drugs. He was just trying to cater to a bitch.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? He was just doing that because he didn't want the bitch to know that he had some kids. So that's why,
Lord.
like, to this day, I don't with anybody who switches up over a bitch. Let it be a homie who's like doing weird shit, pillow talking or anything. All stems back to that moment when my dad was acting weird over a bitch, denying his own child over a bitch.
Holy shit. That really had an impact on you. I mean, it must have been so unbelievably hard to understand as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, as a child, it happened when I was like 4. So I didn't really understand it. But when I learned about it when I got older, I remembered it. I'm like, yeah, that shit me up. I was like 15 when I found out.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's a terrible story.
Yeah, man, that ain't shit though.
But so wait, you said your mom got out the shelter when you were 8, or?
So yeah, we had moved. So later that year, that was like a horrible year for me, 2008, because like all the kids in the shelter, they got like Christmas gifts donated to them, and I was the only one who didn't get any gifts. So that year we moved into a shelter. My dad died. No Christmas gifts. Like that year sucked. So
wow.
But a few months later we moved into like a motel for a few, like maybe a month, and then we got our own place. But previous to that, we had been into that same shelter like 3 times previously.
Right. Was your mom dealing with addiction, or was she just having a hard time getting it together financially?
My mom's not a drug addict or anything like that. My mom, so we were in the shelter that time I told you. It was actually my fault because she was like, my mom was a full-time CNA. She was working, and I had got sick and went to the hospital, and she came to the hospital to stay with me. I was in like a whole like 3 hours away from our town, and so she was staying with me, you know, because I was her child, and because of that her job fired her, and then like she didn't have enough money. We had to like move into that shelter. So, and plus she was going through like a domestic violence situation, so she had to get out of there anyway. So everything kind of that shit up. Like she didn't have enough money to get a place because she was in the hospital with me.